بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سعادة الرئيس التنفيذي للمركز الوطني لتنمية الحياة الفطرية، أعضاء مجلس الإدارة الموقرين، ضيوفنا وزملائنا الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أنا البندري الوتيد، مدير إدارة الإعلام والاتصال المؤسسي في المركز الوطني لتنمية الحياة الفطرية. يطيب لي أن أقدم لكم ندوة عمل هذا اليوم. لا يخفى على أحد منكم الاهتمام المتزايد الذي تلقاه قطاع البيئة والحياة الفطرية من قيادتنا الرشيدة والحراس
and the rapid movement that focuses on introducing our natural resources and to preserve them for us and for the coming generations. From that comes the announcement made by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of the National Green Saudi Initiative, which included more than 80 initiatives with 3 major goals, which minimize the carbon emissions and green programs and to preserve the marine and wildlife. And the National Center for Wildlife is the umbrella for the wildlife activities in the kingdom. It is contribution within this initiative comes within 3 major initiatives, including initiative to breeding and resettlement of the endangered species, which is the center of focus of our today's seminar. In 2022, the National Center for Wildlife had discovered a number of mummies of the cheetah in the northern part of the kingdom. One of them, the one we have seen when entering this hall. The following years, 2023, the Minister of Environment, Water and Agriculture Engineering, Abdurrahman bin Abdul Muhsin Al-Fadli, declared the initiative or resettlement of the cheetahs as one of the outcomes workshop organized by National Wildlife Center to introduce the outcomes of this research and to review the outcomes of this discovery. Today, in 2024, we are ready to declare an exceptional event within this program, but before doing so, before this announcement, let us stop and step back to watch a small documentary about these wonderful creatures and then come back to you.
Of Saudi Arabia's expansive wilderness, one of nature's most remarkable creatures used to thrive against all odds, the wild cheetah. Recent discoveries of mummified cheetahs in Saudi Arabia suggest that this region may have been pivotal in the cheetah's evolutionary history, challenging the belief that cheetah populations were mainly confined to the plains of Africa. Here are 5 intriguing facts about wild cheetahs. They are renowned for their incredible speed, reaching 60 to 70 miles per hour in short bursts. Each cheetah boasts a unique coat pattern of spots. They are solitary creatures, coming together only for mating, adapted to the desert's diurnal rhythm. They prefer cooler hunting times and are critically endangered. Conservation efforts led by the Saudi National Center for Wildlife are vital to protecting their habitats and ensuring their survival, reintroducing and preserving this iconic species in Saudi Arabia's natural environment.
الآن مع كلمة سعادة الرئيس التنفيذي للمركز الدكتور محمد علي قربان للإعلان عن التطورات في هذا البرنامج، فليتفضل مشكورا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أصحاب السعادة، الضيوف الأعزاء، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يطيب لي أن أرحب بكم اليوم لنستعرض إنجازا وطنيا في عودة الفهد الصياد. سعى المركز الوطني لتنمية الحياة الفطرية منذ إنشائه على المحافظة على النظم البيئية والتنوع الأحيائي في المملكة العربية السعودية. وعلى مدى العامين الماضيين بذل باحثو المركز جهودا حثيثة لاستكشاف الكنوز الخفية للحياة البرية في جميع أنحاء المملكة. يعتبر البرنامج الوطني لإعادة توطين الفهد الذي أطلقه المركز في عام 2023 بهدف المحافظة على الفهد إحدى المستهدفات الأساسية للمركز لإعادة توطينه في المملكة. ويتطلب هذا الجهد تعاون كافة الشركاء في منظومة الحياة الفطرية في المملكة لتلزمت هذه المرحلة إلى قصة نجاح جديدة. مع إطلاق استراتيجية المحافظة على الفهد الصياد نعلن اليوم عن أحد أهم الركائز في هذا البرنامج
which is the success of the National Center for Wildlife in breeding cheetahs and giving birth of 4 cubs in captivity. As the cheetah has been considered an extinct species in the kingdom for more than 40 years due to many threats. This constitutes a qualitative leap in the breeding program in preparation for its resettlement, its natural environment, which is considered an exceptional event due to the difficulty of breeding cheetahs in the international programs. In light of Saudi Vision 2030, which prioritize nature conservation within the Green Saudi Initiative, the reintroduction and resettlement of the cheetahs as part of the several breeding programs implemented by the center in order to enrich biodiversity and rehabilitate ecosystems, which represents a qualitative leap in the kingdom and in the region. Finally, I reiterate my welcome to you and thank you for sharing our successes, which we look forward to enrich your experiences and with the kingdom's efforts to preserve the environment, which feed into the paths of social, economic, and comprehensive developments, and strengthen the need for all partners to cooperate to translate these efforts into new success stories, and peace and blessing be upon you. Would like to congratulate you all on this success, to all our colleagues and the center and our homeland for this great success, which made with the grace of God and with the relentless work by all sectors concerned with the environment, in particular our teamwork in the National Center for Wildlife. Now I give the floor to Director General of Wildlife Conservation Department, Mr. Ahmed Al-Bouq, to talk in details about this achievement. Mr. Ahmed, the floor is yours. Peace and blessing be upon you. First of all, what I'm going to talk about is not just a lecture, it is a journey. I'm going to mention in brief when and where did we start and how we started, and the most important benchmarks throughout this journey, and where we have reached so far, and where we are heading. The map you see illustrates geographical distribution of the cheetahs in the world. However, this map, if you look at it carefully and consider this geographical distribution between Africa and Asia continents, we will notice that this species in this wide geographical area is a unique type of species but has different forms, sometimes called under different scientific names. And as you can see in this slide, that the North African type and South African and West Africa and also Northwest Africa and the Asian species. However, the common denominator between all these species are different breeds of cheetahs. They have been exposed to huge pressures, with making them losing 90% of his population. Now the existing cheetahs does not exceed 9% of what was known in the history. This map also shows that each breed, their color, the dark color shows the spread of this species, and the light color indicates the historical spread of these species. For instance, in Asia continent, we notice that under Asian species, it has declined from all West Asia to focus only in Iran is in few numbers, very few numbers. Today, the cheetahs in the world are exceeding about 7,000 only, a little bit more than 7,000. However, 10% or 9% of them, of their geographic distribution, are those who exist in might increase the danger that might, and the awareness among the national and regional level as well about this endangered species. If you consider the cheetahs and their existence in the Arabian Peninsula, we know that, and as you know all, that there is indicators of existence of cheetahs in the Arabian Peninsula in the scripts, as you can see in these rocks, dated back to thousands of years. At the one in Rata and Manjur, in Shwemis area, this is international heritage, UNESCO heritage site in Hail, and also in the Jubba in the center, as well as in Hail, which is part of international UNESCO heritage, and in Fao, in the empty desert, empty quarter desert. We see also this script, colored script of cheetahs and some other predators, lions for instance. However, this historical site did not only prove the existence of cheetahs since thousands of years, but also some paintings like the one on the top of the slide proves that the other predators which depends that on which cheetahs are dependent also exist. The extension of this historical presence of cheetahs, we also trace the research in the center. In fact, the teamwork of this program, both programs are more than 40 researchers from the National Center for Wildlife, and they participate from Saudi universities and some other universities from around the world. We have traced this in the in the Western expeditions since 19th century, since 1848 till 1929, for about 1 century, almost a century. They have mentioned cheetahs in their books, and as you can see in the map here, in the left side of the slide. However, is this the end of the journey? We have traced also the verbal narratives from our fathers, our forefathers, who lived in these areas, which is intersect with the mentioned the existence, in which the cheetahs' existence was mentioned, where they registered their witness of seeing of these cheetahs, or the relatives seeing these cheetahs in these areas, and we have traced that these stories in the northern side of the kingdom since 1941 till 1982, meaning that the cheetahs ceased to exist or disappeared in the KSA since less than 50 years. But what is the surprise? We and you understand that, but however, there is no evidence available in our hands to understand the types or the species that existed in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You remember that, as my colleague Ms. Al-Bandari has mentioned, that the center had declared in 2022 this discovery of 17 mummified cheetahs. However, the research team did not stop there. and they have continued more researches and surveys, field surveys, conducted by our colleagues in the field, and they have discovered 63 mummified, or of 17 that have been declared in 2022. Now we have reached on to 63 the discovered mummified or parts of mummies, or skeletons, or part of skeletons. However, all are for different types of creatures. What does this mean? This important discovery, for the first time in the world, in the northern part of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, provides physical evidence and an opens window to the past. However, what is most important is that this window to the past opens a wide door for the future. They have revealed this. We have discovered many secrets through these mummified cheetahs to cover the gaps in knowledge which was impeding us in the past to decide on understanding or knowing the right species and right site. However, conducting this different diagnosis with carbon technology in cooperation with Italian University proved that the existence of these cheetahs in the Arab Peninsula goes back to more than 4,000 years. This existence and these 5 specimens have been discovered, like skeleton or from the mummified cheetahs, proved one important fact. That is, the existence of cheetahs in the Arab Peninsula is not all 1,000 years, but extended throughout the history. It did not cease to exist, which has been noted down by the travelers or by our forefathers. It was an extension of this historical existence of cheetahs, which has been discovered recently. Also, the DNA proved that the teamwork managed in cooperation with different universities in Vienna and Finland and Italy and King Abdullah University might extract the DNA of these mummies. But what this DNA revealed? It has revealed that there is 2 different species in Ad-Duhul in the northern part of the kingdom. The Asian breed, which was known, in fact, but however, we used to lack the physical evidence in the past, and the Northern African breed. So for the first time, we can prove that the Asian African breeds met in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in the Arabian Peninsula. Why we are very much concerned about the cheetahs? Why resettling them? Why this great interest by the National Center for Wildlife in resettling or restoring the cheetahs to their natural environment? For 2 main reasons: that the cheetahs are they control. They are the maestro which lead the biodiversity in the different ecosystem in which they exist or used to exist. Cheetahs they guarantee the balance of predators in their natural environment. Predators, I mean different wide spectrum of predators, wide spectrum like different types, like the Arabian oryx, on other rabbits, wild rabbits, etc. Different types of preys. We know that, and the media knows very well that, the National Center for Wildlife has different breeding programs and resettlement for different endangered species throughout the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia within their national historical geographic distribution. And since establishment of the program, this center has launched, in cooperation with our partners in the national reserves, royal reserves, and in some big projects, and at العلا Royal Commission and also National Center for Vegetation launched more than 7,000 of these species which were breeded in the breeding centers. However, this launching of this creature, will it be sustainable? Yes, indeed. It will be sustainable if we resettled the cheetahs, because cheetahs, as I mentioned, they control the balance of the existing different creatures within their natural distribution. But the big predators plays major role in this to maintain such balance. Is this the only role of predators? And the cheetahs in particular? No. But they plays important role in the vitality, because these big predators, they are fed in the sick and weak animals. Thereby they revive the health more vivid and making the ecosystem more vivid and the human being more health and sustainable as well. When we have all these enablers and achievements, the vision should be clear for us. The mission is very clear. Therefore, the National Center for Wildlife has worked in cooperation with many experts within the center and experts from around the world, specialized in cheetahs, worked to produce a national strategy for conservation of cheetahs and the roadmap as well. Today, this is our strategy in our hands. It took us long time and efforts to produce this strategy. However, this strategy, which we will receive it later, is a roadmap that includes the roadmap to restore the cheetahs into their natural ecosystems in the KSA. This strategy depends on 4 major pillars, which are establishment of the breeding centers, then identifying the areas within geographical distribution, and to the preparations to rehabilitate these different sites, in particular with the natural breeds and the community participation or partnership, which is important for sustainability, and last, to resettle them in their natural environment, and going to celebrate like we did today, like we did in 2022-2023. We've launched this program. Today we celebrate the breeding and the birth of these cubs. As the CEO has mentioned, of course, we're going to celebrate as well with the first resettlement of cheetahs and restoring to their natural ecosystem with their natural distribution in the KSA. This picture shows the first births of cheetahs within the breeding centers of the National Center for Wildlife in the KSA. As CEO has mentioned, it was a tremendous success and a benchmark before the final stage, which is before restoring them to the wildlife. I would like to thank you for your listening. Thank you so much.
A remarkable story unfolds. Years ago, these lands were home to cheetahs. Today, we are bringing them back. 4 cheetah cubs born under the care of passionate experts of the National Center for Wildlife. These cubs represent hope and resilience. We're restoring what was lost. Through innovative strategies and scientific research, Saudi Arabia is leading in cheetah conservation, ensuring a future where wildlife thrives.
شكرا أستاذ أحمد على هذا العرض المثري. نستقبل الآن على
Would like to receive some of the experts within the Cheetah's conservation program to discuss about this program. Before that, however, would like to receive your written questions to be answered by the teamwork by the end of this discussion session. Now, kindly, I'd like to call upon Dr. Vincent Merwi, expert of the Cheetah Settlement International Center for Wildlife, with 30 years of experience in preserving and conservation of the cheetahs in Asia and Africa. He managed to contribute to the settlement of cheetahs in more than 30 sites around Africa and Asia. And Dr. Vincent also is a holder of awardee of National Parks Award in South Africa for his contribution in preserving the environment. Also, I'd like to receive on the stage Dr. Najat Saeed. She's a vet in the center with 19 years of experience in breeding and caring for cheetahs, and in Ethiopia, Somalia, and Djibouti has been awarded and honored by international organizations for her contribution in combating illicit trafficking of natural creatures. We'd like to receive Dr. Misfer Al-Halafi, a specialized researcher in the NCW. He worked for many years in the wildlife sector and has worked with Banfera for cats, big cats. The session to be moderated by Mr. Ahmed Al-Bouq, Director General of Wildlife Studies at the Center and the NCW. The floor is yours, Mr. Al-Bouq. You have any questions, kindly join us, or you may ask if you have any question. So we can ask our dear guests, dear panelists. سوف نبدأ معك الدكتور فينسنت يعطينا بعض الخلفية عن تجاربكم في تأسيس في جنوب أفريقيا والبلدان الأخرى.
Thanks very much for the opportunity to come and speak to you today. So we've had experience reintroducing cheetahs in Africa. But before you can start reintroduction, of course, you have to get the captive breeding right, and we'd like to thank our colleagues from NCW for the wonderful work that they've done with the captive breeding. It's not easy, and to achieve the success is a massive step forward. The next big step for the project is rewilding. So to get cheetahs from captive conditions into the wild is very difficult. They have to catch their own food. They have to compete with predators that are stronger than them, that kill them and kill their cubs and that steal their food. They have to roam wide distances in harsh terrain and survive in these conditions and breed. So in South Africa we had 26 years of reintroduction failure. We lost over 200 cheetahs before we perfected the art of cheetah reintroduction. And we learned the most important recipe is fencing. Fencing prevents cheetahs from walking out of the protected areas and coming into conflict with the communities. We learned that you have to use a phased approach. You cannot take a captive cheetah and just release it into the deserts of Saudi Arabia, because it will not survive. You have to start off in small fenced areas that are stocked with prey animals. You release them into these fenced areas so they learn to hunt. And once they've perfected hunting, only then do you enter the third step. One of the things we learned in Africa and in India is that never before in history have cheetah been reintroduced successfully into an unfenced system. And we are very grateful for the work that the Saudi authorities have done, number one, to improve the environment for cheetah release, to restore the natural vegetation, to recover the prey numbers, and to fence the environment. So a lot of fantastic work has been done with the captive breeding and now with the preparation of the protected areas for cheetah release. So we still have a long way to go, but a lot of good work has been done, Mr. Albo.
Thank you. Dr. Najat, you had a great experience of rearing the cubs of cheetahs in the confiscated programs, also in the shelter rescue centers in different countries, in Somalia, also in Ethiopia. So if you can just light it a little bit about the rearing the cheetah. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. Well, in my where I used to work, the cheetah cubs came to my center, different size. The smallest one I got was two weeks old. They didn't even have a teeth when they come to me, and they were emaciated and kept away from the mother. Maybe the mother was killed when they bring them the cub to me. So we help them to gain their nutrition and balanced milk. We use zoological milk to grow them, and we eventually we start to wean them after giving them a lot of milks for 3 more weeks or 4 more weeks, and then we start with very baby goat meat, and then eventually they start growing, and then they gain their strength, and that's how we bring them back to life.
Thank you very much. سؤالي لزميلنا الأستاذ مسفر الحلافي هو أحد أعضاء فريق المساحات الحقلية في المركز الوطني لتنمية الحياة الفطرية، ومن أوائل الذين نزلوا إلى الدحول وساهموا بشكل فعال في هذا الكشف المهم، ولا زالوا يساهمون أيضا في مسح المزيد من الدحول. أستاذ مسفر، أريدك أن تضيء قليلا على مسألة التوسع في المساحات في الدحول، الهدف الأساسي من تأسيس المركز لبرنامج الاستكشاف في الدحول والكهوف في المملكة العربية السعودية. ما هو الهدف الرئيسي وراء هذا البرنامج، وأيضا ما هي الإجراءات السلام المتخذة للعاملين في هذا البرنامج؟
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بالنسبة للبروتوكولات، عمل المركز على بروتوكولات السلامة خاصة بالدحول والكهوف، كذلك
and also safety protocols for the field work according to standard and international standards and practices. And in these practices are always following laws in the KSA about exploring the al-Kuhuf is to study the natural creatures that lives in these caves, being an ecosystem that has been included to the ecosystems, which is more than 65 ecosystems, and also to study the natural creatures, the extinct creatures disappeared, as such as cheetahs that have been discovered recently, and many other predators like wolves in these areas. And the center is striving to understand these natural creatures that lived in the past, and also to discover them and to follow a program of resettling them to live in their geographical distribution areas. Their historical distribution areas. Thank you so much. I have two questions from the audience. First one is, when is it expected to start launching or resettlement of the cheetahs in the KSA, and what are the expected sites for launching them? These two questions candidates could be answered by are responded to by the strategy and the roadmap, which is expecting that the pilot launching by 2027, and to learn lessons from this pilot launching of the cheetahs, which will be in 2029. The major launch of these cheetahs. The expected sites the sites have been identified. Also has been mentioned in the strategy, in the map, within their geographic distribution, including some sites that will be coordinated, and the different coordination with our colleagues from the Giga projects, such as NEOM, for instance, with the Royal Commission for Al-Ula, and also the National Reserve of the National Center and the Reserve of the Royal Commissions that expand in the KSA. We have identified the best one that can suit these animals, and going to assess these sites according to specific criteria, and also the criteria for assessment are also included within the strategy for cheetahs. The number expected for be released, it's going to be, it's very limited numbers, to learn lessons on how they can the cheetahs could cope with this or the environment, and to extract some lessons and behavioral lessons, and to identify after releasing them and after providing them the praise they need, which will help later in to learn from these lessons to identify other different sites. The major goal, however, is to find the meta, which is to relocate them at different sites. First, at the beginning, will be interventions to move them. However, later, the major goal at the long term is that the gene flow to be natural with different near close sites while releasing these cheetahs. At the beginning will be one side in 2027. As I said, we're going to learn from this experience. The breeding, yes, the second phase. If we have more pets, we're going to do the sending them to the wildlife. So we're going to match between the breeding programs and releasing them in the wild. دكتور فينسنت، هناك سؤال حول إعادة تقديم مواقع إعادة.
We already mentioned selected sites from either those sites right now under the Giga projects, or the Royal Reserves, or the Royal Commission of Al-Ula, or from our reserves. But how we the criteria we depend on, and how we evaluate these sites, if you can just give some lights on these points, please.
Yes, so it's very important to establish a meta-population in Saudi Arabia where you have multiple protected areas, each with their own cheetah populations, and then you swap genetics between these populations to ensure the genetic viability of the Saudi cheetah population. But to select these sites, 15 criteria have been identified. I cannot discuss all 15 because we don't have enough time. But the most important is prey availability. How much cheetah food is available at that site? Is the habitat suitable? Is there sufficient water sources? Is there sufficient shelter for the cheetah there? So habitat suitability is going to be very important. The quality of the fence. Is the reserve sufficiently fenced to prevent conflict between cheetahs and livestock farmers living outside of the reserves? How much potential is there for conflict with the outside communities, and is there a program put in place to reduce or mitigate this conflict? The other thing is monitoring capacity. So how closely does that reserve, how much facilities does that reserve have to monitor the cheetah as they are moving around in these large deserts? And what is the veterinary support available if something happens to a cheetah? For example, it breaks its legs or it needs to be recollared, because all of the cheetah will have to be fitted with monitoring devices to monitor their hunting, to make sure that there are not factors there that are killing cheetahs, that we cannot perhaps deal with poaching, or perhaps the wolf population is too high or the hyena population is too high. Of 15 factors that will be evaluated for each reintroduction site, and then we will prioritize the reintroduction site that has the highest score for cheetah reintroduction success. And this is the approach that we'll take forward.
تفضل يا دكتور تفضل. شكرا دكتور. أنا ودي أحيل بعض الأسئلة على الزملاء بس
quick comment. The community partnership is one of the major pillars for our strategy to avoid or to ensure the sustainability of this resettlement. It is very important, this matter. The other point is that the sites that have been identified falls within some of them were part of the domain of the Al-Ula Royal Commission, and some part of the Giga Protection in Niyam, and some other part of the Royal Reserves, and some other under the reserves controlled or managed by the NCW. However, after doing a field assessment or evaluation, then we can decide from when we're going to start to evaluate different sites in coordination with our partners within with their domain. These reserves fall. This is one of the sites. Yes, this is one of the sites. Indeed. Mr. Mesfer, I'd like to ask you a question. If you shed some light to our dear audience about today in the field work, you encountered many challenges when visiting Duhul, of course. As you know, Duhul is quite different. Some are extended to large kilometers. These caves, during the field work also there are some meetings and interviews with the population there, those who in these areas, these communities. So what is your impression? I think they are not feeling good about losing this biodiversity and this biodiversity that used to exist. The vegetation was much better before 40 or 50 years. It has declined due to the grazing, overgrazing. This is the to respond to Dr. Ibrahim's question and to respond to the disappearance of this biodiversity and this rich biodiversity. First of all, talking about 40 years in the past, it was in fact when talking about the old people, senior citizens, and asked them when doing our field survey, they talk about like before 40, 50 years, deers were there, cheetahs were there, tigers were there. But what happened during this past years, or the past 40 years, 50 years, the urbanization has contributed to the disappearance and the bushing also, which to decline of this biodiversity, and some were lost or isolated in very few numbers. Some of them some of the animals in fact was about to distinct like a leopard, and they have went through different challenges such as I said as bushing, and these different techniques of bushing, sophisticated bushing techniques. Now with the resettlement programs of these animals, the extinct animals, now the center has lost more than 7,000 creatures at different areas in the north, south, east, and west of the kingdom to restore this ecosystem and to ensure its sustainability. دكتور نجاة would like to add something. هل تودينا تضيفين ما الذي نحتاجه؟
The next stage before the reintroduction, what is the difference between rearing the captive breeding groups or the rewilding groups?
Well, first we have the best facility where we can provide the best that can imitate their natural food, the whole carcass, teaching them how to hunt slowly by slowly, and then by providing care with a clinical care, which now we have at our center, diagnostic tools. It's equipped our laboratory. We also have the best veterinary doctors and who work as a team to provide all the cares that the cheetah needs in the breeding center or after when we put them for rewilding. And what I see the most important thing is to make them accustomed with the food regime, exactly like they used to eat in the wild. You make them accustomed when they grow up. So that's how we're gonna proceed with this project.
Thank you. Dr. Vincent, there are several questions. I have to close in a few minutes. But one, it's related to the competitors, to the cheetahs, the other predators, how it will affect the reintroduction program. And the other question also related to what is the suitable or the sufficient numbers of cheetahs has to be reintroduced in a selected site. العرض اليوم منقول من خلال الشبكة، ففي موجود الترجمة مباشرة. طيب احنا عندنا الآن يعني متابعين عن طريق الشبكة من أماكن مختلفة في المملكة وخارج المملكة، فكان الدكتور بس بيوجه على موضوع الترجمة لأنه لكن الزملاء أفادونا أنه موجودة ترجمة أيضا في عملية
interpretation in two languages, Arabic and English. هذا ما يتم نقل هذه الجلسة عبر وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي مختلف الأماكن في المملكة وخارجها.
So the translation is there also by both languages, English and Arabic. So please.
Thank you very much for that important question. So as we mentioned earlier, captive breeding is very challenging. It's difficult to have success, but we've had this initial success. The next step is rewilding, and a lot of cheetah will be lost in the rewilding process because their genetics is not strong enough to survive in the deserts of Arabia. And this is not a bad thing because we want the strongest genetics to survive. We want the strongest animals to breed because the Arabian desert is a tough environment for cheetah. But when we do reach that stage where cheetah are released into the wild protected areas of Saudi Arabia, the only competing predators at this point would be striped hyena and wolves. Now, they will not attack and kill adult cheetahs, but they will certainly kill cubs. So they have the potential to reduce reproductive success. But we know from our experience in Africa and in India that cheetah live and coexist with many different competing predators that actively kill them. Lion, tiger, leopard, spotted hyena. So that is not going to be a problem in Saudi. Even the leopards in Saudi are much smaller than the subspecies in the rest of the world. So the interesting thing about Saudi Arabia is when we eventually have success, we're going to be sitting with the problem of too many cheetah. Because once they start breeding, they increase in number very fast if there are not other predators to control them. So in that event, we're going to have to negotiate with neighboring countries in North Africa and in other parts of Southern Asia to identify other areas for reintroduction. And Saudi is essentially taking the leading role in introducing the correct subspecies, because India did not introduce the correct subspecies. Saudi Arabia is introducing the IUCN recommended subspecies. So at this point in time, the protected areas in Saudi Arabia can support maximum 50 to 100 wild cheetah, which is not sufficient genetic diversity. But as the protected area network increases with the Saudi 2030 vision, more cheetah will be supported, and we will establish a meta-population with neighboring countries so that we can eventually reach the goal of 500 wild cheetahs, which is genetically and demographically viable for a wild cheetah population.
So there is two questions. One about what motivated the decision to be made now, and the other one, how does this announcement impact cheetah conservation efforts globally? So what is the motivated decision to be made now? No, the decision has been made before the discovery of the mummies, actually. But the discovery of the mummies, it's give us a huge opportunity to understand well the gaps and to plan well for the captive breeding programs and reintroduction programs. And also to select the right subspecies for the captive breeding programs. As Dr. Vincent mentioned, the subspecies we selected, it's the Sumaringi. But why we select the Sumaringi? They were kind of criteria we depend on to select the Somaringi, because it's the closest from the genetic point of view to the results we found in the genetic extracts from mummies. Also, it's the closest from the ecological point of view to what we have in Saudi Arabia. Also, the diversity of genes and the availability of individuals in the captive breeding programs around the world, it's give it the opportunity to use this one. Anyway, the Somaringi, as Dr. Vincent just mentioned, it's been recommended by UNDP, by cat specialist groups, and Convention of Migratory Species to use the Somaringi subspecies in any captive breeding programs and reintroduction programs. And thus it will not only reflect nationally but also globally, because the reintroduction will support the natural remain populations in Northeast Africa. I have some other little questions. في سؤال عن دور الإعلام الوطني في إنجاح البرنامج. ودي أترك الفرصة للأستاذ الحلافي يجاوبنا على هذا السؤال أو وجهة نظره في دور الإعلام في المحافظة. إلى أي مدى الإعلام مؤثر؟
How far the media is impacting these efforts, and also in directing the public opinion and to raise the awareness among the population for the sustainability of these resettlement programs, not only for cheetahs but for all the resettlement programs conducted or implemented by the NCW with partners. National media has an important role in which is to convey the message to all population in the work, in the public domain, wherever, to convey this mission, or through documentary, awareness documentary about the significance of wildlife, or about how to preserve and conserve this wildlife. Media is an integral part of our role through which can communicate our message, and also through some influencers in the social media and through different channels of the NCW that could reach the widest sector of the population at either social media or at the state-run media. This, of course, could reach the widest audience to communicate our message. I would like to add also that media, and today we are hosting some of the notable figures of media in the KSA and outside. They are major partners with the
الاستعادة سواء كان للفهود أو للأنواع الأخرى التي
or other endangered species in which the NCW is active. The center is working within programs for the breeding of different predators, like before some weeks about the success of breeding of some of the big cats, and the center succeeded on breeding the hyena, and also part of this program is the Arab wolf and the wild cat, the predators, and the lynx also. This is one of our goals and part of our restoration strategy. لدينا سؤالين دكتور فينسنت، دكتور نجات سوري. How this كيف تساهم في أو كيف يمكن لهذا أن تساهم ذلك الميلاد لهذه أو ولادة هذه الأنواع في إطار الولادة في الأسر وكذلك في إطلاقها في الطبيعة. سوف نرى ذلك في المستقبل، ولكن الآن هذا أمر رائع وبداية جيدة، وفي المستقبل سوف نرى كذلك سوف يكون لدينا في المعامل التحاليل اللازمة للبحث عن التنوع الجيني، وسوف نرى ذلك في المستقبل كما ذكرت. Unless you have questions, I think we are concluding now our session. The center, however, is open, and our website are open for any questions, either by the audience here and either or by those who are following us through social media. And of course, we will have a session on next Thursday. It's a weekly session organized by the NCW about different subject matters in the wildlife, and will be a good chance to talk about the predators and the cheetahs. I'll talk about them in details, and this is going to be also broadcast for those who are interested to know more about this. The session will be each Thursday, in which we are going to talk in details about these discoveries and many other scientific information to be provided by Mr. Ahmed Al-Bouk and Dr. Vincent. Would like to know more about this subject matter. We're going to broadcast this through live stream and the social media, and we'd be honored with your participation. At the end, I would like to thank you for participation, and in this participation in success, hoping to see you again in more other successes, and peace and blessing, Babania.